Well, there we have it. Lilly exposed the flaw in the Master's plan, causing him to abandon hope and destroy himself, ending the super mutant threat against Vault 13. And the Overseer gets a well-deserved bullet in the back for abandoning Lilly to the wasteland. I just love that punchline ending. Actually, in the bit of narration we saw, we heard about some of the effects, I think, of Lilly's actions, and I think it's interesting to look at some of those. Having killed Aradesh, Tandy takes control of Shady Sands. What would have happened if Tandy hadn't been rescued, or her father killed? Necropolis was overrun by super mutants before Lilly even arrived. The original ghouls inhabiting the city, slain. What would have happened if Lilly had arrived earlier? Desert Raider camp destroyed, the Raiders effectively disbanded. What if Lilly had never returned to that camp? The Mariposa military base destroyed. Wonder if that would have even been necessary if she were able to convince the Master that his logic was flawed first. And I guess on a side note, the narration mentioned the Followers of the Apocalypse. I don't believe we've heard that phrase before. I can only assume that means the Children of the Cathedral, which was actually destroyed. What if Lilly had simply killed the Master? I wonder if Morpheus would have stepped up to take the Master's place. I guess in the end, the remaining mutant armies fled east, but not before destroying the hub. I wonder if there's a way to save the hub if your character is so inclined. Anyway, I'd like to thank everyone who's been following this series, and also for not really spoiling anything. Well, too important at least. And I'd like to thank you for your patience also, especially if you're already familiar with the game. Doing a blind series like this kind of presents its own unique set of challenges. I can only imagine it must be frustrating for some to watch. And I guess I can actually guarantee you more like frustration, I guess, if you continue to follow the next series. I guess a quick look at statistics. I think it's a little over 22 hours of gameplay over about 7.5 months. And I wasn't going to take notes in the beginning, but as I'll explain later, I started to anyway. I think here in the end I ended up with about 12 pages. Let's see, Lilly died 18 times. That's including the time that she was dipped in the FEV vat at Mariposa. Some might argue that's not a death, but I think it was an endgame condition nonetheless. Otherwise, there's not too many things that she's actually curious about here in the end, except maybe what's behind some closed doors, namely 2 of them. Behind the locked and guarded security door on the 3rd level of Vault 13. Still wondering what might be behind there. And also the door that was welded shut on the 1st level of the West Tech Research Facility. I think there was a locker or 2. Still not sure what was behind there. Anyway, since this was a blind playthrough, I'd actually just like to offer, I guess, my first impression of the game in case anyone's curious. I know at least one person asked for an opinion, I think, when I was done. So at least for that person. But I think I need to at least explain the context of why I even picked Fallout to begin with. Initially, I knew I wasn't going to have the time to play really more than one game, starting with Baldur's Gate, but I thought it would be a good idea to have just another game that I could take a break with, if that makes sense. So I ended up picking Fallout for 2 reasons, really, both kind of silly. The franchise itself had 3 titles, and it seemed long enough that it would last then till Dragon Age. And also, I mistakenly thought that both Fallout 1 and Fallout 2 were using the Infinity engine. So I thought there was going to be absolutely no learning curve as far as using the engine. Needless to say, I was surprised when I realized it was a completely different engine. But I admit, I didn't give the game the credit it deserved at first. I knew it was an RPG, but I figured it was going to be simplistic and linear, with really no impact, I guess, from character choices. But I quickly realized that wasn't the case. I think that's about the time I started to take notes. And I think it was at that mess at Shady Sands where I realized, happily I guess, how good of a game this might be. Because I actually like these older, unforgiving games. Because every action feels meaningful. Because with these older games, you can actually usually dead-end the storyline by killing essential NPCs. And it makes you really think before you do something. But I was also impressed, I guess, with how the world seemed to go on, even without Lilly around her. For example, that Necropolis. Even though I dislike deadlines of video games, I appreciated the fact that she took so long to get there that when she finally arrived, things had changed, and drastically. I thought that was neat. And I also did like how you didn't have control over party members. I think, unlike more traditional party-based systems like Baldur's Gate, it's actually kind of neat not having total control over companions, especially when it involved friendly fire, which I guess Ian is notorious for. But also, I think the fact that you can apparently, I've heard, complete this game with a non-lethal run, I think makes it especially unique. There's not many quote-unquote real RPGs where you can do that. You usually have to engage in combat with something or somebody along the way. So I think that's really interesting too. Unfortunately, Lilly wasn't able to accomplish that in this playthrough, but I think she would have if she could have. Of course, I had a few complaints, mainly technical ones. I think moving bottle caps around that limit of 999, that was kind of a pain. And most of the other issues I think were regarding companions. Having to pickpocket them, that just felt awkward. And not moving out of the way, like Ian in Junktown. Or not wearing armor, just didn't make sense to me. Why they wouldn't. And not being able to tell them to stay put. I think that would have been useful in a few situations, but I understand that most of these are actually addressed in the sequel. As far as non-technical issues, well, deadlines I already touched on. I thought it would have been nice if Lilly's character record were exported at the end of the game, because I think she gained some experience there, but I'm going to have to look it up to figure out what did change with her character. But also, I think with the story, the role the mutant sterility played in the story, because this was known pretty early in the game, I think right after when you visit West Tech Research Facility, you find out about how the super mutants are sterile. In my mind, she could have went right from West Tech to the cathedral and exposed the flaw in the Master's plan right then and there without all that other business in between. Or, I guess, she actually could have taken no action and it would have been fine. Maybe not for Vault 13, but the super mutants would have eventually died off and disappeared. Meaning that Lilly just could have left, and the problem would have solved itself. And it also seems odd that this little piece of information could be used in the end to thwart the Master. Why wasn't he intelligent enough, I guess, to figure that out himself? And if you argue that he was deceived by his underlings, well then, how smart was he really? I don't know. Just a little minor complaint, I guess, with the story, as far as that's concerned. Things I would have liked to have seen, I think it would have been neat if Lilly could have crafted, I guess, improvised explosive devices from spare parts and ammunition. For example, given sufficient skill in science or repair of being able to combine, let's say, a radio and gunpowder from a magazine to create a bomb on the fly. I think that would have been neat. But I think with the story, I would have liked to have seen the option, I think, to join the super mutants. When Lilly was mistakenly gave up the location of Vault 13 and she was dipped in that FEV vat, I think it would have been nice to continue playing, but now with Lilly as a super mutant helping the Master. Because in that narrative, the climax would be the assault on Vault 13 with Lilly killing the Overseer as a super mutant herself. I think that would have been neat. Well, my name is not Lilly, and this has been Fallout. I hope you'll enjoy future Lilly, I guess, as she continues her misadventures in the Wasteland and Fallout 2 next, another blind Let's Play. And as always, thanks for watching. Oh, and now I finally get to watch Dap's Fallout 1 Let's Plays, which I've been waiting to watch since, I think, May. Thanks again, everyone.